The meaning of the Old Testament age, New Testament age and completed Testament age. 10. When we look at the overall course of restoration in history, we see that God leads the providence through the three stages of formation, growth and completion. The course of the providence advances from the Old Testament age, the era of servants, to the New Testament age, the era of adopted children, to the completed Testament age, the era of true children, and finally to the era of true parents. 11. Human history can be categorized into three ages: the Old Testament age, the New Testament age and the completed Testament age. The Old Testament age was the age when children were redeemed by sacrificial offerings. It was a time to make preparations for the coming of God's Son. In the New Testament age, Jesus became the offering. Based on this, we receive the parents. During that time, God made preparations for the coming of the bride and bridegroom, so that we could receive the parents at the time of the second coming. The reason why I, bearing the name True Parent, have suffered for 40 years as the central person of the completed Testament age is to welcome God on earth and achieve oneness between God and human beings. 12. How is it that God has continued in bitter sorrow through the 6,000 years of history? He had to lead human beings, who were positioned between God and Satan, to make certain conditions. These conditions are the mountains of offering sacrifices. Looking back at the 6,000 years of providential history, in the Old Testament age God led human beings to climb the mountain of offering by sacrificing the things of creation, and in the New Testament age they climbed the mountain through the offering of Jesus Christ, who gave his actual body. What, then, are you to offer as a sacrifice in the completed Testament age? You faithful believers have to climb the mountain by offering yourselves as sacrifices. Thus it is that providential history has advanced overall based on the offering of sacrifices. In the Old Testament age people climbed the mountain by offering the things of creation. In the New Testament age, the offering of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, surmounted the mountain of sacrifice. Now, in the completed Testament age, you, representing the bridegroom and the bride, have to climb over the mountain of sacrifice by offering yourselves. You will not see the world of true peace, freedom and the ideal until you have climbed over the mountain of sacrifice. 13. In the Old Testament age, the things of creation were sacrificed as offerings to God. In the New Testament age the offering was made by the sacrifice of his Son, and in the completed Testament age it is the parents who sacrifice themselves. God's purpose in having human beings sacrifice material things and in denying their right of ownership was to restore them as his sons and daughters. His purpose in sacrificing his Son, Jesus, was to recover the parents, and the purpose of the parents carrying the cross is to attend God. Therefore the Old Testament age is the age of righteousness by works, the New Testament age is the age of righteousness by faith, and the completed Testament age is the age of righteousness by attendance. 14. In order to attend God, the things of creation were sacrificed in the Old Testament age, the Son was sacrificed in the New Testament age, and the parents were sacrificed in the completed Testament age. Then, what needs to be done from now on? You must stand in the position representing the parents, mother and father. All the things of creation represent the Old Testament age, and God's sons and daughters represent the New Testament age, and the parents represent the completed Testament age. 15. On the path of restoration, we should go up from the era of servants through the era of servants and the era of adopted children to the era of direct children. But how can we complete the course from the era of servants to the era of servants to the era of adopted children, and be connected to the era of the direct lineage? Connecting to the era of the direct lineage cannot be done just like that. Following the principle, we are required to go through the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance, which are necessary for the foundation to receive the Messiah. That is, we need to welcome the Messiah. The Messiah is the true Son of God, but the lineage of a true son is different from that of an adopted child. This is why we need the change of lineage. 16. What is the fundamental issue as we go the path of restoration through indemnity? We have to fulfill the Old Testament, the New Testament and the completed Testament. Fulfilling the completed testament means the whole world will come under God's sovereignty. This is what is required to fulfill the completed testament age. The Old Testament age was the era for restoring all things of creation, the New Testament age was the era for restoring the people of God's kingdom, and the completed testament age is the era for restoring God's sovereignty. This means we have to restore God's sovereignty over the world. Jesus' mission was to restore the people of the world. In other words, the mission of Christianity is to restore all the people of the world as one people, and the mission of the Lord of the Second Advent is to restore the world to the sovereignty of the One.